Welcome to The Matt Bernier Show.
What's going on? Welcome to The Matt Bernier Show on DRF TV, live.drf.com, livestream.com, Twitter and Facebook as far as the daily racing forums pages are concerned. My name is Matt Bernier. You can follow me on Twitter at Bernier_Matt. Today, if you're watching it live, is Friday, July the 21st. It is opening day at Saratoga Racecourse. If you were watching this a little bit before, because this is going to be taped on Wednesday the 19th, you're either watching this the night of opening day at the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club, or you're watching it on Thursday, wherever it may be. But if you check it out, podcast, you have YouTube, you have SoundCloud, you have iTunes, you have video.drf.com. This needed to be done early this week because I have a wedding to go to Thursday and Friday, so we figured we'd get a little bit of a jump. We're not going to have a ton of weekend handicapping, but if it gets up in decent enough time here on Wednesday night, we got a couple of races that we'll go over opening day up at the spa, and we'll talk about just the opening weekend in general of Saratoga and Del Mar. But before we get into that, unfortunately, we've got some sad news that came out on Tuesday afternoon. Ben's cat, the 11-year-old gelding, who everybody loved. He was a fan favorite, just a crack turf sprinter. He had retired about a month and a half ago, and then he came down with colic. And unfortunately, they had done some surgery and some complications afterward. Unfortunately, he needed to be euthanized. Again, he earned over $2.5 million. He was a fantastic turf sprinter, and just kind of figured we should at least acknowledge the passing of Ben's cat, who was arguably the most popular horse of just culminating in the past, 5, 6, 7 years. Certainly, arguably one of the most popular. And in sort of his honor and commemoration to Ben's cat, we're going to take a look at his final victory. This was in the Jim McKay Turf Sprint last year at Pimlico.
Rocket Heat is the leader by 3 lengths and Spring to the Sky the outside. Rapid Den, Ben's cat saving all the ground, is trying to charge from fourth with a furlong left to go. 44 second half mile. Rocket Heat is the leader. Rocket Heat up top, Spring to the Sky. Ben's cat surging late. Can Ben's cat get there? Here comes the cat. The cat surges through. Oh, 2016 is...
So again, unfortunate news that we found out Tuesday afternoon, the passing of Ben's cat, but you saw he was tenacious. When he was right, he was as good as you could find as far as those mid-Atlantic turf sprints are concerned. He won about 1 million different races, and he's going to have at least one, which he already has named after him, but he's going to have, I'm sure, many more races named after him, the venerable Ben's cat. Let's try to transition into something a little bit more uplifting and upbeat. Let's move on to Saratoga and Del Mar opening weekend, and really this is the kickoff of the summer series as far as the meetings are concerned, both in California and here in New York. You've got the Spa, which will be open for 6 weeks. You've got Del Mar, which will be open for 7 weeks. All told, it'll be 40 days up at Saratoga, and I'm pretty sure it's 40 days at Del Mar. Opening weekend, as far as that's concerned, Saratoga, you've got the 2-year-olds. They'll take center stage on Friday and Saturday. You'll have the Schuylerville for the girls on Friday, the traditional opening day featured event, or now the co-featured event, along with the Lake George. And then on Saturday, you'll have the Sanford. And then when you go out to the West Coast, you have some 2-year-old racing, which is all well and good, but the big story is the big horse. He's coming back. This is Arrowgate. We're going to take a look at his horse card. Those of you that are unfamiliar with Arrowgate, I don't know where you've been, or maybe if you're just new to the game, we have to acknowledge this is the all-time leading money earner as far as North American race horses are concerned, and he's only raced 8 times. He's on the heels of wins in the Breeders' Cup Classic, the Pegasus World Cup, and the Dubai World Cup. He may be the only horse that we ever see with that trio of victories, and I don't think I'm being overly aggressive saying that. The fact that you could win those 3 races, I'm not sure that we'll have another horse that can win those 3 races consecutively anyway. So he is the main event coming up on Saturday afternoon down at Del Mar, and I say Saturday afternoon, I think on the East Coast here, post time for the San Diego Handicap is supposed to be after 9 o'clock. East Coast, so probably about 6:15 on the West Coast. He's going to be very difficult to beat in there. We're not even going to show you the field. We're not even really going to talk about the race. It's a mile and 16th. This is nothing more than a tune-up for him for the Pacific Classic, which will be run toward the end of August, and then whether there's one more race in between then or right to the Breeders' Cup Classic, that seems like it's the end goal. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him come back again in the Pegasus World Cup. I know they're just right now saying that the end game is to get to the Breeders' Cup and run in the Classic. Boy, for $12 million, and now it's $16 million, whatever the purse has been bumped up to, I wouldn't be shocked at all if you got one more race out of Arrowgate and it happened to be in next year's Pegasus World Cup. But that's for another day. Be happy and thankful that we get to see a horse of this caliber come back and run on Saturday afternoon. On the East Coast, up at Saratoga, we get the return of Lady Eli in the Grade 1 Diana. We're going to take a look. This is her most recent start in the Gamely. And it was a very good effort, especially when you consider she was taken out of her element. She had to be much closer to the pace. You've got that Baltus horse rolling up on the outside. There was some really nice runners in there. Revenge on the down on the inside. She's already packed it in. But Goodyear for Roses is no slouch. And Lady Eli, she digs in gamely. She got a big figure for this as far as buyers are concerned, as far as Timeform US ratings are concerned. She is another fan favorite. We talked about Ben's Cat at the top. She is always going to be a fan favorite as far as just racehorses are concerned, knowing what her entire situation was, how brilliant she was as a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. And then she stepped on that nail after the Belmont Oaks, and we didn't see her, and there was some question about whether or not she would survive. She had laminitis, and there was all sorts of bad things going on, but she came through it, and she came back last year, and a little bit of bad luck to only go 1 for 3. She won the Flower Bowl, and she just missed out in 2 other races, one of them being the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf. She comes back this year. Tough loss to start things off down at Keeneland. And then, you know, good enough for her. And I apologize if any of you are listening, still battling the allergies a little bit. So there may be a cough or anything like that in the midst of this. She really ran very well in the Jenny Wiley, but then she came back and ran so well there in the Gamely. So it'll be interesting to see what we get from Lady Eli in the Diana. But it may not be a big field. I think we've only got about 6 runners going to go in that spot. But the good news is, if you're looking for an alternative, you don't have to look far because Chad Brown sends out Antino. We're going to take a look at Antino, her most recent victory. This was in the Just a Game on Belmont Stakes Day, and you see her, she's still at the back of the pack right now. She's in the Juddmonte Silk. She shoots down to the inside, and she finishes with a rush. Now, this was a visually fantastic effort, in my opinion. And it's interesting to hear as well that it sounds like she wants more ground than the mile that she got to work with there at Belmont Park that day. She'll get a 1 1/8 miles up at the Spa on Saturday. And let's just call it for what it is. Lady Eli is going to have him tied on tight if she's going to run with this girl because Antino is a very talented mare. And it'll be interesting to see what we get from those two. They're an uncoupled entry going out there for Chad Brown. It's Chad's world, and he's a hometown boy from up there, Mechanicsville. It seems like he's going to be obviously one of the leading trainers up there at Saratoga, as he is year in and year out. So this is a little bit of a condensed show, as you can tell, but we are going to touch on a couple of races coming up on opening day Friday. This is at Saratoga. Again, July the 21st. If you're watching this live, we're airing it at the normal time, but we're certainly not going to go a half hour on Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, but we normally do, about a half hour or so. Live.drf.com as well as livestream.com, and then the Twitter and Facebook handles for the Daily Racing Form. But let's dive into the races a little bit and just chop them up briefly. Nothing too in-depth because the PPs are relatively fresh, but I've got a couple of ideas. Let's take a look at the field for the Schuylerville. You'll note that I don't have any odds in here. This is what the morning line is on the far right side. You have Mel's Gone Wild, who is an interesting runner coming up from Parks for Kathleen Demasi. You've got the 2 Buy, Sell, Hold, the morning line favorite for Steve Asmussen. Hasn't done anything wrong in 2 lifetime starts, including a stakes victory against males. You have the 3 Best Performance for Christophe Clement, who, you know what, may not be the sexiest one to watch visually, but boy, she's very impressive, and she finishes nicely. 6 furlongs, that could be a key element to this. Dream It is kind of an unknown for Barb Mitchell in this spot. Coming down from Woodbine, this is a horse that's got a big buyer speed figure in her back pocket of an 84, but it's worth noting both of the races, she's unbeaten. They've both come over the Tapeta surface up at Woodbine. She also doesn't change leads. Now she's going to go from 5 furlongs out to 6. A lot to throw at a filly in a short amount of time. The 5 Limited View. This is a very fast horse coming up from Laurel, and if you look at the Timeform US ratings, with the exception of Mel's Gone Wild, Limited View is very, very competitive in here. The concern I have is the overall pace scenario. I think there are a lot of horses that are going to want to be forwardly placed, and maybe that works against the likes of Limited View and Mel's Gone Wild. Pacific Gale is another one. John Kimmel, this one's going to be forwardly placed. She won on debut, going 5.5 furlongs at Belmont Park. The Lasix go on, so that's always a positive. They're going to go for it right now. This is a daughter of Flat Out. Flat Out stands for 7,000. This really sold for 72,000. So You've got some things to like there. Laudation, another one in here for Steve Asmussen. If 12 to line holds on the morning line, I think that's a very, very generous price considering she's shown that she can sit and still finish the deal. I know that she just broke her maiden most recently, and it was against a pretty suspect field, but she did it very, very impressively. She never got out of a gallop. Very impressive for Laudation. And again, if you can get 12 to 1, you get Javier and Steve Asmussen, that's not a bad thing. The 8 Snowfire, this is the horse that I'm going to likely go with in this spot for Mark Cassie. I thought the career debut going 3/4 of a mile, I can't overstate how important I think that is right now for these fillies, that she's already gone this distance that they're going to be running at. She sat just off of the pace. She loomed up on the outside on the far turn, and she finished very well. I will say it seems like she's got a little bit of a high leg action, and I haven't done the deep dive as far as pedigree or anything else is concerned. I've only watched tape and looked at the Buyer speed figures and then the Timeform US ratings, but I loved everything about it. She's got a high leg action. She's by Tappet. I wonder if there's a little bit of turf in that pedigree, but she's the one that I'm kind of leaning toward right now, as is Stainless. I thought Stainless was very, very impressive, breaking her maiden in the career debut. That was down at Gulfstream at the end of May. I don't love that she's been gone for a month and a half, almost 2 months now, but at the same time, in Todd we trust. Pletcher up at Saratoga, you know he's going to fire fresh. This filly, again, visually, she was very, very impressive. The race hasn't come back particularly strong that she won, broke her maiden in, but you'd have had a next out winner in there. That was the runner-up, who, by the way, was 6 and change clear of the third place runner. So the Schuylerville is the traditional opening day featured event up at the Spa. I'm leaning right now, again, this is being recorded on Wednesday night, toward the 8 Snowfire, but I think Stainless has a big chance in here. And again, if you're just looking at it from a speed figure standpoint, the one Mel's Gone Wild is the horse to beat in the spot. Let's move over to race number 9, 3-year-old fillies. They're going to go a mile and 16th on the turf. It is the Grade 3 Lake George, and for those of you listening or watching, you're just going to have to bear with me as I take a quick drink. Right in post position order. The number 1 is 55 for Chad Brown. She figures to take the lion's share of the money in here. She's a 7-2 morning line favorite. You have the 2 Fizzy Friday coming up from Churchill Downs. One of a number coming out of the Grade 3 Regret. The 3 is Defiant Honor. This is the full little sister to Recepta. Jimmy Toner, everyone, all the connections are the same. Boy, she looks very, very promising visually. Chubby Star, another one coming out of that Regret. Corporate Queen is a main track only, so very good chance if the weather stays the way it looks like it's going to up at the Spot, she will not run. The 6 Super Marina looks a little bit slow on paper for George Weaver, but again, she's hit the board in 7 of her 12 lifetime tries, so maybe she's one that you want to use underneath. Party Boat is interesting. The Penn Oaks, she didn't have the cleanest of stretch runs. She had to angle in and out. She finally got back down to the inside and she finished very, very well, but I didn't love that she didn't seem like she really wanted to be in between horses splitting, so that's a little bit of a concern, but she's got a giant Timeform US rating in that Penn Oaks with a 119. Proctor's Ledge goes out for Brendan Walsh, another coming out of the Regret. She ran second to Sweeping Patty. Sweeping Patty is drawn just to her outside. The winner of the Grade 3 Regret. Worth noting, Proctor's Ledge gets Lasix on for the first time here for Brendan Walsh and Javier. The 10 is Victory to Victory, a horse that I've been disappointed in thus far as a 3-year-old. I thought she had a big 2-year-old campaign, and I thought she had a ton of ability and potential here. And so far, she's just kind of gotten off to a rocky start. The blinkers come off, but she does figure to be forwardly placed for Mark Cassie, and Cassie also has the 11 Dream Dancing, who she was kind of up against it in that most recent start. We know what New Money Honey's capable of doing. She came back to win the Belmont Oaks a few weeks back. Dream Dancing is very talented. I do wonder, though, in this spot, is she going to get overbet? And I think 55 is going to get overbet as well. I think they both have, obviously, major credentials, and they can both run very, very well. Defiant Honor, if she stays at 10-1, I don't think she's going to. I think she's going to be the wise guy horse in here. She has tactical speed. She can sit a little bit of a trip just off the pace. I think she is very, very interesting and possibly one, not just for this race, but going forward. If she's anything like her older sister was, Recepta, Defiant Honor could be a very, very talented and interesting one going forward for Jimmy Toner. I'm most interested in Proctor's Ledge. I kind of felt like Proctor's Ledge. I understand Sweeping Patty handled her by 3 and change. Proctor's Ledge just got shuffled back on the far turn. She was stuck in behind horses, and I think if she was able to get out earlier, maybe she doesn't beat Sweeping Patty, but I think it's a heck of a lot closer. She also gets Lasix for the first time here. She's going to need a little bit of pace to run at, and who knows, maybe it develops, maybe it doesn't, but I do think Proctor's Ledge is an interesting one in here, getting the Lasix on. Again, Victory to Victory, I'm not sure what's happened so far. I thought she was supposed to have a big 3-year-old campaign, and so far it's just kind of been iffy, a little bit wishy-washy to date. And Sweeping Patty, I liked her as a 2-year-old. I liked her early as a 3-year-old, and she just wasn't delivering. I used her a little bit in the Edgewood, where I thought she ran very well behind Dream Dancing as well as La Coronel. And then the Regret, I said, you know what, I'm against her. She absolutely aired in there. She figures to work out a favorable trip in this spot, and she could be one that you want to consider using as well, and she may float up from that 4-1 morning line. So the Grade 3 Lake George is one of the co-featured events on opening day up at Saratoga Racecourse. For those of you that have been listening or watching, I apologize for the throat and the voice. It's not allergies. Any of you out there that have got them, you know what I'm dealing with here. And I'm trying to get it out of the system and ready to go for this wedding on Thursday and Friday. So unfortunately, I won't be with you live on Friday, but this will be airing noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Live.drf.com, livestream.com, the Daily Racing Forums Twitter page, as well as the Daily Racing Forums Facebook page. Again, opening day at the spa. It doesn't get much better than that. As this is going on right now, I'm taking a look over at our in-studio screen, looking at the second race at Del Mar. We've got about 5 minutes to post. This is being filmed Wednesday night. If there are changes, there's only so much I can do. Figured it was better to get something out than nothing. If you're listening to a podcast version, this may be uploaded either Wednesday night or sometime on Thursday. You've got YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, video.drf.com. Next week, we'll be getting ready for the Haskell down at Monmouth Park. We'll have the return of the 3-year-olds. They'll come back and take center stage. Best of luck opening weekend here, Saratoga, Del Mar, anywhere else you're playing. If you're watching here on live.drf.com, as we always do on Friday, we're going to roll it right into Out of the Gate. I'll talk to you guys again next Friday. Hopefully not so hoarse.